equals mx plus b, right? And then m is the number multiplied by x. So it's the number that's attached to the x. So our slope is negative 3 over 5. And our b, or the y-intercept, is what? 1. Because it's the number by itself, right? Okay. So once I have both of these variables, now I can make my line. How do I start my line? Does anyone remember? We know the slope and we know the y-intercept, which is b. What's the y-intercept? Like, I know we know the number is 1, but what is the intercept? What's an intercept? A y-intercept. Well, I know the number, but what does it actually mean? Cody? You go up from the origin 1, that's right. So the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. So it has to be on this line. And because it's positive 1, just like Cody said, we're going to plot the point here. And from here, since we have our slope, now we can plot the next point, right? So if slope is rise over run, what am I going to do? Kaylon, do you know?
You go down 3 and over 5.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start at my y-intercept, and I'm going to go down 3, because it's a negative 3. And then for my run, I'm going to go over 5. And I'm going to draw my line. Draw your arrows. And that's it. Does everyone remember that? Is that familiar from Friday? No? That's all what we did in the notes, and then the 4.8 worksheet when we had those 2 columns. We had to identify what m and b equaled. Remember? You guys are acting like today's Monday.
No. It's Tuesday. We will be excited when it's Friday.
Uh-huh. That's good.
Thank y'all.
Okay, so this is what we did yesterday, right? When we're given the line, and then we have to come up with m and b, and then eventually the equation. Does everyone remember this from yesterday? You had to practice on your worksheet? Okay, so what would b equal? Or the y-intercept? Alex, do you know? Oh. Mike, do you know?
-1.
That's right. So b is the y-intercept. It's where the red line crosses the y-axis. So b is -1. And I'm going to go ahead and circle that lattice point. And then I'm going to circle this lattice point. So now we can figure out what slope is, right? Now that we have 2 lattice points. If I'm going to start with my leftmost lattice point and try and get here, I know that the line is negative, so I'm going to go ahead and write that in so I don't forget. What's my rise?
Rise go over 3.
We're going from here, right? And I went down how many?
3.
1, 2. 2. So my rise is -2 on top of, and then Jaden, I heard you say you go over 3, right? So my slope is -2 over 3. So how do we write this equation now? Nice. -2 over 3, x minus 1.
What? She said plus.
I think she said plus minus 1, right?
Yeah.
Which is the same as saying -1. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? If you've got a negative, you can just basically cancel out the plus sign and just write -1. This just needs to look like the equation that we have at the top of both of our note sheets with y equals mx plus b. Okay? Does everybody have that? Go ahead and pass your openers to the front and down to Kaylon, please.